The presidential elections. We'll be speaking to our contributors in Nigeria and analysing the latest news with my esteemed and informed panel in our state-of-the-art studios here in London. Now, there is a phone number that you can call. It's +44 7943 226511. If you're watching our repeat show at 9 p.m, please do not call as the lines are closed. Now, joining me on the panel are the chairman of APC UK, Dr. Philip Idiawo, African Affairs Analyst Lagun Akinloye is with us, political analyst and author Godson Azu is back, and joining us from Abuja via Skype is the journalist and writer Frederick Nwabufo. You are all warmly welcome to this very interesting moment. Now, before we analyze what happened, let's take a look at the stories making headlines in Nigeria with Juliana Olayinka standing by. Juliana.
You said it was shocking, and I must say, inevitably, both in print and online, the story everybody is talking about is how this happened. 4 years INEC had to prepare for this vote, and some people are saying it set Nigeria back 50 years. Now let's have a look at the business day Nigeria. They're talking about the economy, and of course, if you cancel an election on election day, it is going to have a gigantic knock-on effect of the economy, and that's what everybody's talking about. There are estimates that Nigeria has lost 10 billion US dollars. Some are saying 5 billion US dollars. Business Day Nigeria is saying that the total cost to the economy is over $666 million. The cost to INEC is over $17 million. And what's quite interesting, Mark, is at the moment, the political parties are not talking about the economy. They're all kind of accusing each other and blaming each other. But the Nigerian economy was very fragile. So this is very, very important. Some big businesses such as Oando and Zenith Bank have lost shares. Dangote Cement is also down today, and the foreign investors are shocked. Can they trust Nigeria? This is a very, very, very huge story.
What else is making the news over there, Juliana?
Well, of course, as well, let's look at The Guardian Nigeria. They have a headline saying voters and candidates have been stranded as airlines cancel flights. There's two parts to this story. One is the weather, surprisingly. Even though we're talking from Britain, the weather isn't usually a story that dominates Nigerian headlines. But people have been stranded because airlines were forced to close. There was Hamatan, and the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency have had to deny claims that they cancelled flights before the planned election on Saturday, because of course one of the reasons INEC said they had to postpone the vote is not all of the electoral ballots and the papers that they needed for the vote were delivered to where they had to be. So Nigerian Airspace have denied that they were involved in that. But again, if we take it back to the human interest story, Mark, I'm sure you've seen the pictures, and our viewers have too, of people basically stranded, not just those that are flying via air, but those that were traveling on roads. There are pictures of voters and Nigerian Youth Corps members literally having to sleep outside of the places that they were due to vote purely because they couldn't move around.
And this is almost like a marathon, isn't it? You've got these two parties and they're just reaching, they can see the finishing line, and all of a sudden the finishing line is a mile away again. And now they're saying, well, we want to start campaigning again.
That's another big, big story, and we are expecting INEC to talk on that. Of course, legally in Nigeria, 24 hours before the vote is due to start, you're not allowed to campaign. Mahmoud did say on Saturday that campaigning is still banned, but the PDP, the APC and the Third Force have all said that they will be campaigning, that they need to rejuvenate the voter who have, of course, lost out on so much money, lost out on so much movement. They had all planned. Let's talk about the diaspora. I have friends, Mark, that travelled to Nigeria prepared to vote, and the APC and the PDP and other political parties are saying that they will defy this ban, that they will continue to campaign.
Juliana Olayinka standing by in our studio there. Thank you for that very, very succinct update there.
The Commission to take, but necessary for the successful delivery of elections and the consolidation of our democracy. The Commission will meet with key stakeholders to update them on this development at 2 p.m. on Saturday, 16th February 2019 at the Abuja International Conference Center. Thank you very much.
Well, the Election Commission, INEC, really could not have left the news of this postponement, should I say, any later, could they? 5 hours, just 5 hours before voting was due to begin, INEC announced that the vote would be postponed until next weekend. International observers had arrived, some people had already started queuing, and election staff were already at their locations. Now, before we speak to the panel, we're going live to Abuja to speak with our correspondent, Frederick Nwabufo, who's a writer and a journalist. Frederick, your take, please. What on earth happened?
Well, I think it was highly irresponsible of INEC to have postponed the election just 5 hours before the schedule. This particular situation happened in 2011 when the election, National Assembly election, was postponed right at the time, voting had commenced in some parts of the country. One would have expected INEC to have improved beyond this after 8 years, but sadly we are in the same situation, which is wrong. But at the same time, I think the feelers we are getting in Abuja is that it's all political. But at the same time, we cannot say for certainty that is the case. That is the case. So it was highly irresponsible and totally wrong for INEC to have postponed the election just 5 hours before the schedule.
Let me move to my panel now. Dr. Philip, your diagnosis.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for having me on here with you. I think that when I heard about this announcement and this postponement, it was with utter bewilderment. I mean, I just could not believe what I was hearing.
You were shocked?
I was shocked beyond words. Because for any of us who have been involved in this campaign, we understand the pains. We know what we have had to go through. It has been bruising campaigning and getting the message out there to the Nigerian public, to the Nigerian voter, to say to them, look, you need to come out and vote, and you need to vote right.
Was there any indication within, I mean, you're one of the ones campaigning. Did you get any indication whatsoever?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely no indication that INEC had any problem, which in my opinion made the announcement made by INEC so disrespectful to the Nigerian people. How a public funded organization could act with such level of callousness and disregard to the citizens of Nigeria, to me, I'm still struggling to understand that. And in all honesty, I think that listening to Juliana analyze and talk about the economic impact, we also have not talked about the security implications of what has happened. A whole gamut of issues will be thrown up by these decisions.
Just think about those poor youth corpers. Last election, we lost many of them at the polling. Now, many of them are going to have to stick around for a week in these far-flung places.
Absolutely. I just feel that worst of all is this, that Professor Yakub Mohammed had made that announcement without the courtesy of saying sorry to us, saying sorry to the Nigerian people. I feel personally, as a Nigerian, I feel belittled and betrayed by the INEC leadership.
Belittled and betrayed, says the Dr. Lagun. It is beyond dispiriting. It's worrying too, isn't it?
All the right invectives have been used, to be honest. It is a sham, it is terrible, it is wounding to the sentiment of not only the Nigerian people, but how we are perceived of the world around. people underestimate the interest that the world has taken in the elections in Nigeria. CNN, BBC, articles, dozens of flying left, right, and centre.
It looks like Zimbabwe is even better than us.
People are watching, and at that time, at that moment, to tell us, that it will not be held has been a terrible slight on the country.
What do you make of INEC's excuses, or at least their explanations of the reason why at the 12th hour, I won't even say 11th hour, because we were actually almost in the election, that they had to pull it?
I think INEC have shown a complete lack of understanding and operational nous, because when they requested for that budget, they were given on time, which is very unlike Nigeria to actually put things in motion for that. So when it comes to spending, they had no issue with that. Therefore, it was left up to them, and they were given a free enough hand to actually go about construction and elections that will be done each and every time we would do it. Each and every time you were to ask them, they would say, yes, we are ready, we are ready, we are ready. But you wait till that time.
We're not ready.
Therefore, I'm wondering if there's undertones of political gerrymandering going on here at the end of the day,
And that is kind of what's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Is there, could there have been some pressure? This is all speculation. We don't know, but there is a sense that we're not seeing the whole picture, right?
Of a fact, we are not seeing the whole picture, but actually there is some visionary focusing that we are assuming in our imaginary mind that this is what is really happening. Going with the theoretical argument of one great political writer, André Schludler, who said something about political uncertainty. When you look at the issues of political uncertainty, you're talking about electoral authoritarianism, whereby people who have the right to run systems are beginning to use institutional damages and informational damages to create a political authoritarian system within a democratic setup. And this is the whole thing we are seeing from the damages that INEC is bringing up for us here, because it's not about postponement of an election that is the key issue here. The key issue here is about who is engineering this political uncertainty that is about to create an electoral authoritarianism in Nigeria.
Yes, so many issues to talk about, including all the mudslinging accusations and counter-accusations going through. We'll take a quick break now. So much more to discuss on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
Anybody, any Nigerian that votes for Atiku, you know the meaning already. Atiku, we are dead. That's all I have to say in terms of we are dead.
I think they should allow Buhari and Osinbajo continue what they've started.
There are options there for us because we've got the young guys, but we've got Atiku at the moment. And I think for Atiku, he's been in government for a long time and he has the capacity to actually deliver the work at hand.
I think Buhari is going to win again because Buhari is an honest man and he tries his best, but at the same time, I think he's too old. So I have a feeling Atiku will win, but I want Buhari to win.
I will come out straight to you. Okay. I will strongly support Buhari.
There's always the power of the incumbency, and the man is a general, so it's going to be a tough call.
For obvious reasons, I think I would rather appreciate Atiku winning the election.
It seems a bit dicey, but I think that Buhari stands a better chance.
Thank you, my sister. God bless.
Amen. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to Nigeria Decides, the election special. I'm Mark Eddo and I'm pleased to welcome back our great panel, the chairman of APC UK, Dr. Philip Idiawo, African Affairs Analyst, Lagun Akinloye, political analyst and author Godson Azu, and now joining us from Lagos via Skype is the political journalist and commentator, our dear friend Suleiman Alade. Now we're discussing the surprise last-minute postponement of the long-awaited presidential elections. A great, great shock. So I'm going to go to Suleiman next and ask him, first of all, your reactions, sir. Is INEC to blame, Suleiman, do you think? Is INEC to blame?
Mark, I think INEC has all the blame on its plate because 4 days to that particular election, there were indications showing that INEC shouldn't have gone ahead with that election. We kept asking INEC. I was one of those who broke that story even before INEC came out, from the meeting on my blog, because I had someone who was giving me information telling me that, look, this meeting will ultimately end into a postponement. There were a series of issues. Recall, we did discuss this on this show, and it was they were all pointers to the fact that INEC should postpone it. First, there was an attack on INEC head office at Kwampan, a place in Plateau State in north central of the country. Nothing happened. Then we also saw in the southeast of Nigeria, in Isialangwa, specifically in Abia State, southeast of Nigeria, there was also an attack on INEC's office where voter cards and the card reader machine were destroyed. We also saw another attack on INEC facility and office in Anambra State, also in Nigeria's southeast. So one was actually wondering what kind of magic INEC was going to put in place to get a new set of card readers, reconfigure them, and also get the voters their new voter cards to go into the polls. So we had all of this pointing to a postponement, but INEC kept telling the nation that they were ready to go.
And latest, this is a live show. This is great. I often can't do this in a regular show, but this is a live show. And just about an hour ago, President Buhari and the APC stalwarts had an emergency meeting, an unscheduled meeting that was aired. And I think we have a clip from President Buhari's comments at that meeting that we can roll. Could you roll that for me?
Definitely, the reasons why such incompetence manifests itself has to be explained to the nation. After the election, we have to know exactly what happened. Otherwise, our efforts, to make sure that this system we voluntarily accept is not making progress. What is the use if we accept incompetence? The Constitution and the laws protected INEC, but they must not take us for granted. If, for example, the National Assembly refused to approve what INEC wanted, then INEC could have some moral reason why they couldn't perform. If the time constitutionally of election 4 years after was not obeyed by the government and the system, INEC could have a case. But we do not understand why this inefficiency. And we have to go into details after the election to find out who is responsible.
So that was the president there saying that we need to find out what's going on here after the election. We're not going to let this just fade away like so many things in Nigeria where there's no accountability. He's saying, no, we've got to get to the bottom of this. This is serious. Let's get through this election and then we'll do a post-mortem and people will be held accountable. I think that's what I'm hearing. Yes. I mean, that is your flag bearer at the APC. Absolutely. Comments, please.
Thank you very much. I am so impressed hearing Mr. President make that statement. Because in the press statement that I issued just this morning, that was exactly the point I made in that statement, that there needs to be an organizational audit of INEC. That we need to know, there needs to be a thorough investigation to find out why and how INEC could take Nigeria and Nigerians for granted in such a blatant manner. Who is responsible? There need to be consequences. You know, one of the big problems that we face in our country is this. People behave the way they choose to behave.
Or say whatever they choose to say.
Exactly. And they believe that they can do so without consequences.
With no retribution, yeah.
And I think that every society that wishes to move forward, every society that wishes to see peace and prosper must understand one thing. All societies that develop are built on the foundation of law.
And accountability.
And accountability. It is very important. And this is what we keep missing in our country.
Godson, maybe there was a sense that perhaps this has happened before. Back in 2011, there was a delay. 2015, I think there was a delay of 6 weeks actually from during the Goodluck Jonathan election of 2015. It's just another delay. But it feels like this time things have changed. We've reached in Nigeria a sense of a breaking point, and what was normal business, just delaying an election, is unacceptable in 2019. I get that sense. The people I speak to get that sense. Do you get that sense?
I get that sense beyond the fact that we keep arguing on this postponement of election based on the issues of weather, logistics, personnel, and so on and so forth, which is the issue is beyond that. There's an act of conspiracy going on here, and this act of conspiracy is already unveiling itself.
You're saying there's some dark arts.
You look at the fact that you look at the fact that as at Saturday afternoon at the meeting with the stakeholders, INEC was easy to admit the fact that they have an APC senatorial candidate in Niger State who is a contractor to INEC, supplying the whole PVCs that are going to be used for this election, and he himself, being one of the owners of the company, a contestant within.
Yes, I heard that.
So you can see the compromise that is already there, that is already losing itself. So when you say there is an in-house, there is somebody, if somebody is producing PVCs that is going to be used for election, which means that the person has an access to the code, he has an access to the electronic coding system that can decode information that goes through that PVC on his pocket, because at the end of the day, the directors of the company after he left were his family members. So he has access to the information of that. So you look at the issue of compromise, you look at the issue of conspiracy theories going on within the system, and INEC chairman knowing very well that this, and you remember that.
But these are unsubstantiated claims.
No, it's true. INEC accepted that. INEC accepted that on Saturday, that they knew, because the guy had a contract with INEC since 2011. That contract was renewed when he changed his company name in 2015.
Okay,
so there's an issue that INEC need to answer. Beyond what is weather and.
Godson is saying INEC has some questions to answer. He's seeing some dark arts, some movements in the shadows there. Lagun, the APC and the PDP were very quick. Once they said, "Oh, we really feel for you people out there," they quickly went back to what they do best, which is attacking each other, mudslinging, right? So one was accusing the other. There was counter accusations about who was to blame and who influenced this. Now, what came out of the PDP camp was quite something. We're talking about accountability. They said effectively, we have cause to believe, we have evidence that states that perhaps APC individuals within INEC had somehow influenced this with a view to Buhari wanting to stagger an election and incorporate that with security. And so they were talk about dark arts, they were more overt about it. Lagun, each was saying the other one influenced the postponement. What do you say?
I say that sometimes politics can be a very interesting game. That it is in the interest of an aggrieved party when it comes to a situation like this to create hyperbole and rumors and muddy the waters, and some might have inside information, some might just be trying to create a movement of belief and thoughts at the end of the day. What I do know is that the PDP, from a PR standpoint, are within their rights to say that there might be a mole in the INEC of the APC, or there might be individuals in the INEC that belong to the APC.
But they need to show proof if you're going to say something like that. Surely.
The INEC chairman is an appointee.
They showed Mohammed Sani as a proof. They showed Mohammed Sani as a proof.
The INEC chairman is effectively an appointee of the president, right? We've seen in the past, prime example, Obasanjo and Maurice Iwu, how you can manipulate the chairman to your whims and your way, and the way you want to go. Therefore, it is not out of the realm of the ordinary for elements within a party to have some form of control over INEC.
Quickly, 30 seconds. Can I come in? Suleiman, if you're there, does this delay affect the credibility of our presidential poll next week?
I think looking at all the conspiracy theories, it just might. But I think we have to give it to the two major parties, the PDP and the APC, for accepting this postponement. It still will come. It's just about 6 days to the big moment. But looking at all that has happened, there's something that many are concerned about, and that has to do with the inadequacies and inefficiency of INEC to prosecute this election. Because you mentioned about the past where elections were postponed in 2011 and 2015. but those were actually pointing towards security, but not on, maybe you waited. A lot of Nigerians, they called it a nocturnal meeting. They went to bed, they had this meeting, and before everyone woke up, you just got the news that the election had been postponed 5 hours to the D-Day. So many people are still very skeptical about what will happen. Just 2 days ago, I had a show, and my guests, they said to me that they don't still believe that election will hold this Saturday. And that's the big fear that some Nigerians also nurse.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest concerns. Will it happen next week? Well, we're going to continue talking. Suleiman's going to stay with us. We'll take a break now. So much more to discuss on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
Touch and join the conversation on Nigeria Decides Election Special. If you'd like to make a comment or ask the presenters or any of our Nigeria Decides guests a question live on the show, then give us a call on 0044 7943 226 511.
Join me, Mark Eddo,
and me, Juliana Olayinka, for a series of in-depth programs
on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
I'm so happy today. Yeah? Look, my eldest son, he's been granted visa. He's coming to London today.
I'm getting married.
Do you have any cutlery?
How delightful to see you.
I only wish I shared the same feeling.
Oh, now, Marley has given up all hope of victory.
Our great nation, Nigeria, will be independent in 2 weeks.
Media model.
What is wrong with her? Women!
Mom, where can I need a bigger place?
Do I look like the Queen of England?
Akbos. The A is violent.
Cheers.
Hey! To recognize billionaire, we will see billionaire. Don't watch me, leave me alone. Ow! Where is my phone?
If you wanted your daughter to go for the program, she should have done better than my son.
I expect to be told if I'm going to be running into strange shirtless men on my lawn.
That is my half of the lawn.
You are getting married? Oh my wow! Look at you, fine girl!
He proposed by accident?
What is your handiwork? Business.
No, I don't have a boyfriend. And no, I'm not going to kill myself. I am freaking fine!
Delta!
Are you an angel?
Jehovah!
Who are you and how did you get in here?
She can see me. She can hear me.
What kind of madman is this in my room again?
Please, how many hours to Nnamdi Azikiwe Owerri? Owerri? Yes. This flight is for Abuja.
It was kind of cute.
When you say kind of cute,
it's about to go down.
Hello and welcome back to Nigeria Decides Election Special. I'm Mark Eddo and I'm pleased to welcome our panel back, Chairman of APC UK, Dr. Philip Idiawo, Africa Affairs Analyst Lagun Akinloye, political analyst and author Godson Azu, and joining us via Skype from Lagos, the political journalist and commentator Suleiman Alade is still with us. Now, we were talking before the break about Friday's announcement postponing the general election. There have been outbreaks of violence in some areas, and I want to talk about that. But first, I think it behooves me to give Dr. Philip Idiawo of the APC UK the right to reply. After this happened, there was a lot of accusations certainly from the PDP camp, that this was the hand of the government of the APC in all this, that they had frustrated the system so that they could slow down and stagger the election, which would allow the APC to then come in and scupper things and turn things to their advantage. Quite strong words coming from one side of the party. And then from equally from the other side, there was also counter accusations. So I'll give you the opportunity to reply on this. Is it just simply INEC's fault?
I think that I agree with the political backroom play that has been going on. And we have to say to ourselves, what is it that could have happened? Why is it that INEC has behaved the way they have behaved? I like this. I like to refer to the statement made by my party chairman, Comrade Oshomole, earlier at the briefing, with meeting with National Caucus leaders, and where he said that there's credible evidence that INEC informed PDP well ahead of time that they were going to postpone this election, and therefore PDP should hold on deploying their resources to the field. My party chairman made that statement, and I don't think that he's flippant when he said that. Now, the second point I like to make is this. Most members of this INEC leadership got into offices when most of them were appointed by the PDP government. This is something that worries me personally, including the present chairman, who was previously executive secretary of TED Fund under PDP.
But what PDP will say is, yes, they were appointed, but now they flipped.
Yeah, it's easy to say that. What the point is this, that these guys, in my estimation, in my opinion, and the way they have behaved, shows clearly where their allegiance is. Their allegiance is not with the Nigerian people. Their allegiance is with the party that gave them access to national platforms. That is the way I interpret this. And lastly, when you look at the sum total of how INEC has behaved in the delivery of this project, the winning party, we know we were ahead in terms of the way we have run our campaign. We've been to every single state.
How do you know you were ahead? Because PDP will say exactly the same thing when there's no independent, verifiable measurement.
I say this because all the polls that had come through gave it to APC. Yes, close, but gave it to APC. Two, in terms of campaigning, in terms of reach, APC did not take anything for granted. It was door-to-door campaign. It was state-to-state campaign.
Okay.
So we were sure there is no way APC will scuttle
something that you thought you were on your way to winning.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, if you bear with me, I want to bring Suleiman. He's waiting patiently there in Lagos. Suleiman, what, from your side of things, I mean, I know you cover this very closely in your program. What do you make of these accusations between the two parties? And is it dying down? Are people just getting back in with it? Because they're now, obviously, we'll hear in the next hour or so whether or not campaigning will reopen, because the laws state that the campaigns have to stop 24 hours before the election. But now the election's been moved. The argument from both sides of the table are that they should be allowed to go back into the field and drum up support. Otherwise, voter apathy will be twice as much as it already will be, which won't be good, by the way. We're going to lose a lot of voters who've made those big efforts to get to their voting constituencies. So what do you make of these salvos being thrown between parties?
Mark, I'm excited you're following the development back home here in Nigeria. And the truth is that it seemed as if when you said tables turned. In 2015, recall going into the elections, as soon as that election was postponed, President Buhari, then he was a candidate, he said to President Jonathan and the government at that time, he used the word, he said, "What is Boko Haram?"
I remember that.
Because he underrated and underestimated Boko Haram. And he said, how many states? And now we're getting to see, this is not about security, this is about INEC. He nominated, don't forget that the nomination of Mahmoud was by President Buhari for the confirmation of the Senate. So I think we can also hold him for gifting the nation someone who hasn't actually done pretty well. But again, we can also exonerate Professor Yakub because, well, the security didn't actually do a fantastic job to protect the facilities of INEC. Now, asking me the question about the back and forth of these two political parties, I'll say, well, we can never run short of such in Nigeria. That's the thing. So whether it is PDP today, it's going to be APC tomorrow. But the truth about it all is what you just touched on, and it has to do with voter apathy. I've seen and spoken to quite a number of first-time voters going into these elections. Some of them left their homes because you recall that the universities have been on strike, and pretty much a great number of them have been at home. So they registered within their school vicinity. So some of them moved on Friday to such places to cast their ballot because it would be the first time they'll be voting. And I spoke to some of them again, and they said, my parent asked me to come back home, and if I do go back, I will not come back.
Come back again.
Yes.
Let me bring in Godson. That is a big issue now. It's the fact that we had such low voter turnout, less than 50%. I think I saw one figure, 44%. It could have been lower in 2015 of eligible voters that would vote. Now you've got a huge number of them, 18 to 35, 51% of voters are between the ages of 18 and 35. They don't get money. You know now. So to actually take that trip again is big. So the big concern is, my goodness, are we going to see figures of 28% voter turnout or some stuff like that? Or am I being sort of hysterical here?
Yeah, if I may just come back to the same theory I quoted earlier on, the theory of political uncertainty. There's two principles that guides the theory of political uncertainty, which is one of the key elements that is surrounding the system that we're having today in Nigeria. One of them is the institutional uncertainty. You find out that this government today has created an institutional uncertainty. They've distorted the legislature, they've distorted the judiciary, they've now distorted part of the administrative system, which is the INEC. So you find these key three institutions have been distorted by the way the government has managed these three institutions within 3.5 years.
Yeah, their foundation has been unsettled.
It's all dissolved and dilapidated. So the issue here is, how do you compromise this whole issue? It's difficult to compromise because at the same time you have a government that is also destroyed the information. They kind of have an informational uncertainty. The way they pass information, the way they disseminate information has completely destroyed the fabric of the society. People don't know who to believe. People don't know who to anchor their conscience and their faith into. So and when you look at the issue of voter sympathy, we are assuming that with an increase of about 15 million new voters, that the voting patterns will change.
Yeah, we have 84 million PVCs.
We expected the last time we had a high increase in voting was in 2015, when we had about 53, 54%.
And now we've got 84
now
million.
we are assuming that with 84 million people registered to vote, at least about 70 million of them will be having their PVC. We expected that we'll be having at least about 55% voters at this time. But this time around, with this whole situation, it looks like we are going to have at least maybe about 35%.
Maybe. Yeah, let's go to one such voter who will vote despite all this. I believe we've been. You can call. There is a number that you can call that's been coming up on the screen. It's here now. We have a caller now on the phone. Her name is Alison Bankole. She's in Ibadan. Welcome to the show, Alison. I believe you have a question.
Yes, I do have a question. I'm in Ibadan right now. My question is, who is going to pay for all the loss of earnings?
Simple
question. Who is
question.
going to pay for people that traveled from the workplace to their constituencies, paying for their hotels and and everything? Who is paying for that?
Lagun, thank you, Alison, from Ibadan. She brings us back because we talk about the processes, we talk about the institutions, we talk about political parties, but this is about people at the end of the day. In fact, politics is about people and elections are about people. It's not about presidents, it's about people. And the people, as Dr. Idiawo said in the opening salvo, have been treated very badly by this, very badly by this. And they're not just out of pocket, it's going to be ruinous to many individuals who are trying to exercise their civic right to vote. Lagun, there's never any talk. It's almost cursory. It feels cursory. There was no apology. What am I saying? It's just there's barely an apology. Talk less of compensation, as Alison is calling for. Who is going to compensate them, she's saying?
It really pains me when I look at what and how the political elite and the political system in general treat the average Nigerian. You are meant to get their votes to affect their lives, to bring positivity to the country on the whole. But on most occasions, they're used like a pawn. 2 weeks, 1 month campaign, give small money and thrown away. But yet, millions of people are involved in this process. As you mentioned previously, the NYSC people who are sleeping under trees and who are stranded.
Who are probably not paid. They're not paid anything.
Not paid. The petty trader who had bought in bulk for that day and half her food is expired now, and she she has a loan to pay back purely because she makes her bread and butter from this. There are various individuals who are relying on this process at the end of the day. And the political elite have shown a complete disregard for...
Here are pictures. Look at, these are people stranded, young people stranded. Yeah, this is the future of Nigeria right there. Yeah. Sleeping in a down-full bus, outside with mosquitoes and all the rest. And it sends a very strong message to Nigeria as a whole, to us. That I always felt that over the last decade or so, the moral fabric is beginning to tear of our country. The national orientation, the fabric. This can only pull at it even more, is it not so?
The system itself, I think, whilst we should have been going through a process of development, I thought we were moving in that direction. After the wonderful elections we saw in 2015,
you felt hope?
Yes, because it was the first time it seemed that the people actually mattered, that their vote actually meant something, right? And at this election, I feel that it is steadily decreasing and declining.
Very, very sad. Thank you very much, Alison and Ibadan. We'll take a quick break now. There's so much more to discuss. Please stay with us on Nigeria Decides Election Special.
Personally, I want to give him a pass mark.
Okay.
That he has tried, because ruling a nation is not something that an individual can do.
So in my own opinion, Buhari and Osinbajo, I will rate them 75%.
Corruption is not something that can be wiped out in 4 years, and it's not something that can be wiped out in 8 years. It's going to take some time. I think the present government has started the process.
He's making a lot of promises this time, and he wants us to give him a second chance. So, yeah, I will give him a second chance.
I'm not saying they are not doing enough, but what they've been doing is too early to really assess the progress. Yeah. Okay. And yes, he's doing his best, but he seems to be the only one really that is projecting lack of corruption.
Since Buhari came into power, I'm a pensioner. I receive pension in Nigeria, and my pension has been regular, on the dot.
Okay.
Before he came to power, it was never regular. They were owing us sometimes 1 year, 2 years, but now every month, unfailingly, we get it.
I see Buhari has done a lot, and I think the man is still on the spot to do more if he's given the chance.
The best kept secret in the world, the amazing food that comes out of Africa.
This is today's special. Chef Israel here has something spectacular to show us today. That's really good.
Oh, that's all mine?
That's all yours. But hey.
I think it'll sit better and look better in the tummy.
What I do is bring in amazing chefs from all over Nigeria to create beautiful meals at an affordable budget.
Do you cook? The flavor is completely different.
It tastes, it's not just creamy, it's sweet, and I like it.
It's time for Nonny Bites, the segment of the show where we celebrate those giving us a taste of back home. And today, I'm lucky enough to get to try some of these dishes. I'm so excited, honestly.
Nigerians will recognize suya. So we've got suya roasted cauliflower there. Suya flavored cauliflower. Never thought I would love it. Divine. It's divine.
I'm not here for architecture. I'm not here on a sightseeing tour. I am here about food.
I like pokey pokey. So you know, as you're turning me, you can hear.
Yes. I'm like bookie bookie. So sweet. I'm crying. Tears of joy. Really, this is the king of gourmet.
Welcome back. You're watching Nigeria Decides Election Special. I'm Mark Eddo, and my panel is still with me. Chairman of APC UK, Dr. Philip Idiawo, African Affairs Analyst Lagun Akinloye, political analyst and author Godson Azu, and we're joined from Lagos via Skype by the analyst Ademola Oshodi. Now, we are, of course, discussing that dramatic last postponement of the Nigerian, the last I can't even say that word, I'm so angry. Postponement! Postponement of the Nigerian election. I'll actually go to our friend on Skype there to get his thoughts. There are some calls, aren't there, Ademola, that the INEC chairman, Professor Mohammed Yakubu, should resign. Do you think he should?
I think it's too late for that. I think he has to start when he finished. If he resigns right now, we have somebody come in, whether interim or whether to take it on a permanent basis. It'll be a week or so, way too short for him to speed, get the election done and done. So I think it's too late. I think obviously there should be some demand after elections to see what can be better, but resignation causes more disruption to the whole.
And there are some concerns over there that, okay, we had a delay. If they're not ready now, after how many months, if not years, how are they going to be ready, and what difference does a week make?
Well, the reasoning is that whatever issues they've had, and it may be just minute, could be resolved in a few days or a week before the election on Saturday. So fine, if you've been prepared for 4 years, so, but it doesn't necessarily mean the whole preparation of any. So I think the 1 week left, just to I think finish stage of the job, which is really.
Okay, we're going to have to interrupt you there because I think the Skype call is a bit shaky. We'll try and get Ademola back there now. We have a caller from Essex in the UK. The caller's name is Kalechi Akimokule. Welcome to the show. I believe you have a question, Kalechi.
I just a contribution. You know, they are here to make very quickly so that other people can have their own chance. My contribution there is that the wife of the president actually said before that she doesn't know the people walking around with her husband. Like, you know, she made that, you know, utterance before, and it wasn't taken very seriously. But now there's a lot of people talking about how decent Buhari is, men of integrity. But there are a lot of, you know, people who are around him, you know, who are actually influencing people to go over to, you know, start voting PDP. You get what I mean? The likes of Amechi, the likes of Oshomule. I mean, these guys are street guys, man. You can't tell me that this the umpire of this election sat very comfortably, ironed his abada, put his cap, standing very comfortably, you know, talking about like, I'm postponing this election. How could he have done that? How much money has been invested in that? And this money, Oshomule was talking about this, he's using local adage to analyze this amount of money spent in a national event like an election. So it should be well addressed, please. I mean, these people shouldn't be, all these things they are doing because they are here. Somebody should go home and see what is happening in Nigeria, brother.
Now, what you're hearing there from Kalechi is frustration. And it's frustration that is shared by many people. You get this sense that you're looking through a very thick glass window as a voter, as a Nigerian, at the body politics on the other side, and they are free to do and say whatever they like. Now, one of the things that Kelechi mentioned was way before the postponement, the fact that the president's wife said that he's surrounded by some cabal of people that he doesn't even know and hold too much power, and then as if it vaporizes into the air. As a voter, he's saying these are things that should just not be forgotten about. They give him cause for concern. That was the APC's talking about, Doctor.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I hear what Kelechi has said. I think that at this point in time, I would rather say that we are in a period of national crisis in our democracy. And I will rather that we focus on how to deal with this crisis. You see, what has happened with this postponement is, in my opinion, a direct attack on our democracy. It is such that it's so serious that we are saying that after 20 years of organizing presidential election.
We've had 6 elections. How many? 6?
We still, as a people, we still have not factored out how to ensure that material that are needed for election gets to the polling booths right on time. We still are struggling with the basics of logistics after so many attempts. So for me, it is this. A failed electionary elections circle means a lot to democracy. We don't ever want to return to the days of dictatorship, and we cannot countenance anyone who creates the room or the opportunity for such to happen.
Okay, we've diagnosed the problem now. Let's move on to what are the solutions. How can we avoid being in this same situation in 4 years' time? Godson Laden.
I think is an issue. Kelechi mentioned something which Oshimola said in his statement when he referred to Amechi, saying, "Oh, Amechi, I know you are not. When you were before there, you are not credible. Maybe you can tell us how you are incredible in the other side, so that we can operate with that incredibility." So when he talks about he's talking about integrity of the president, and he's having people that is classified by the same party to be incredible before, and they are now in the same party act. So it's an issue that needs to be ratified, even within the APC themselves, to ratify their personalities and individualism.
They need to face up to this.
They need to face up to the reality. They are part of the problem we are facing this moment. It's part of APC's incoherent policy approach, incoherent direction of management. And another thing I want to say here quickly is about
both parties need to do that as well. The PDP also needs to face up and say, listen, these are the mistakes we make. This is the issues and problems in our system, and we need to admit it, and this is how we're going to do it. Forward, there's not enough of that.
Moving forward here is this. We have used in the last 20 years, this is the third INEC chairman, if I'm not mistaken, Maurice Iwu, professor of politics, Jega, professor of politics, Momodu Yakubu, professor of politics, and 3 of them has failed in various areas of delivering a credible, free and fair election at one point or the other. I think the best way forward now is that if our professors, our academians, our technocrats are failing in managing electoral process in Nigeria, then we need to go to Alaba International, Ariaria, Upper Iweka, and get the traders. Because politics in Nigeria is becoming a trading element.
And at least so they're more efficient.
Because even without, if not for the traders in Alaba International, in Ariaria and Upper Iweka, Nigeria would have collapsed today. So maybe they manage our...
Godsi, I don't think we should trivialize, this very serious issue. I really believe that the reason we are having the problems we are having is fundamentally this, that at this point in time, people behave the way they choose to behave, and there are no consequences. Laws and rules are made for a purpose. I believe that the way to transit forward is to do an entire systemic review of INEC. Look at the individuals there. Look at the systems in place. Look at why and the hows. And as a people, let us come out to say that if we must have democracy in Nigeria, there is a need for a complete structural reorientation of our electoral system.
No, I really concur with Doctor. I generally believe the first protocol to moving forward is to actually hold them. I think that the mistakes have been done, but in order for us to move forward, these elections actually have to be held. Now, from that, we can take stock of what happened and what went wrong and what was the issues behind this. But to hold it again and again and again and again is the key to moving Nigeria forward in terms of the democracy.
Yeah.
Therefore, right now it is a symptom of the difficulties within the country. The country is somewhat of a broken state.
It mirrors Nigeria.
Yeah, therefore you will have elections that will be postponed and things will go wrong. But I truly believe if you hold them again and again, you can't help but develop a culture of democracy. 20 years is not a long time, bear that in mind. But once again, it has to be held. If it's not held and it continues down this way, we are looking at a negative impact.
I think if I may make one thing, because the doctor said something, and that has not been consistent. If Maurice Iwu failed in making a proper process of an election, and he didn't resign, he wasn't taken out, he was allowed to continue and conclude an election, it became a precedent, which happened to Jega. Jega failed, postponed an election in 2011. Nobody told him to resign. He didn't move. He continued. He postponed the election in 2015. He didn't resign. Nobody removed him. Then you expect this man now to postpone an election and resign. He would tell you his predecessors did the same. They didn't resign. They continued the election, concluded, and left office.
So there was precedent.
So there's a precedent. So what do we do about this whole precedents that were already created?
Now, back with us on Skype is Ademola Oshodi, the writer and journalist. Ademola, you're right there. Could you give us a sense of what's going to happen? Crystal ball gaze for us and tell us what's going to happen over the next week or so. One concern is that it may leave sensitive materials like election materials exposed, because I mean that stuff is sitting there now and we've now got a week of waiting, which is never good. We also have the issue of, can we keep calm the horses and keep everybody calm so that the level of violence doesn't rise up as well? So there's a lot of concerns and anxious nail biting. Tell us what you think might happen over the next week.
I think there's always concern with the Nigerian election, regardless of whatever position you take. Unfortunately, this election was postponed, but it's still a very credible process that's led up to this stage. The INEC has done other by-elections and, have done successful elections in the past, even though there have been delays historically. I'm still confident that the process will run through and it will happen next Saturday. It's just, unfortunately, a very Nigerian thing. They probably were trying to protect materials to the last minute to ensure that it was not tampered with, that it wasn't interfered, and keep it out late as possible, close to the election day. But somehow they said the logistic challenges involved in getting these things around the country. What will happen in the next 7 days? I'm quite confident that they will pull it through. I just hope it's
okay. I've got to interrupt you, Ademola, because we're running out of time. Ademola says, that he thinks it's going to be free and fair. He did mention that this is a Nigerian thing, which immediately got you guys excited. No, it should not be a Nigerian thing. Who's going to have the last word?
I definitely say that I disagree with Mr. Ademola. I believe that Nigerians are capable people, they are sensible people, and they are able to organize themselves. It is a few elements within the system who are taking the process and the systems captives that are making us look bad in the eyes of the world. It's nothing Nigerian about it. Leadership is about delivering on credibility. That is what leadership should be, and that is why somebody is called a leader. You are supposed to lead from the front, to provide a direction, to provide credibility, to provide that conscience of a group or a nation. That is what leadership is all about.
From your mouth to God's ears, I hope that we have a peaceful election despite its postponement. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's all the time we have for this special edition of Nigeria Decides, the election special. We'll be back the same time tomorrow live with the latest news on the results, hopefully, not on the results, but talking about what the results might be. Don't forget that we are live tomorrow, but we're also always on Instagram, on Facebook, and we're all across the internet. I'm Mark Eddo, and from the entire team here in London, goodbye, but just for a day. And thank you for watching Nigeria Decides Election Special.